We are less than a week away from the national championship game between Notre Dame and Ohio State. Today here in the indoor facility at Ohio State, the team room, if you will. Tim May, the 41-year vet, myself, Spencer Holbrook, and the rest of the Ohio State media contingent talked to offensive coordinator Chip Kelly, defense coordinator Jim Knowles. Got some insight from those guys on how they beat Texas and how they can try to beat this very, very, very good Notre Dame team.
Yep.
Tim, what'd you learn from the two coordinators?
Yeah, what's so much what I learned from them, but the sense I had, I even asked Chip Kelly about it at the end there when my questions get to come up. But, he's going into this game with a full complement of weapons.
Yeah.
And an offensive line that has found itself. I think you would agree with that, right?
Yeah.
After all the trials and tribulations that group's been through, the seventh iteration is working pretty well. Boy, when you look at that screen pass to Travion Henderson just before the half, and you see the guys out front, Luke Montgomery, Tegra Shabola, and Carson Hinsman. Those were the middle of your offensive line, the guys that had to come through for this team to make it where it is now. And then throw Austin Seraveld into that mix also, a guy I'm leaving out from that guard rotation. But and then you look at their weapons. All weapons are on board now, including Will Kazmarek has come back in a big way at tight end after leaving in that Oregon game and working his way back in. G. Scott and then the three receivers. You can take a Jeremiah Smith away and you still have two guys catch, 13 passes, just Carnell Tate and Emeka Egbuka. So you're going into this game with your full complement. And, of course, they're not going to give us any, insight on plays that will be called and things like that. But as I pointed out to him, anything's on the table for them. Based on how it fits against what Notre Dame's going to try to do to them. And that's what stands out to me. And defensively, pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
There was that scare when you saw JT Tuimoloau holding his left ankle, and then he went to the tent and comes back out and plays with a heavily taped up left ankle and really makes a hell of a play down on the goal line stand on the first down play, along with Caden McDonald. You can't be in any better shape in a 16-game season physically than Ohio State is right now going into this matchup for the championship against Notre Dame.
Yeah, you would much rather be Ohio State with its injury situation than Notre Dame with its injury situation.
True.
One of their starting offensive linemen from the entire season, Anthony Knapp's not going to play in this game. Another offensive lineman is what I would say questionable at best. Marcus Freeman did not sound confident that Rocco Spindler was going to be okay, but we'll see.
Right.
There's a week until this game. There's a little less than a week until this game happens, and these recovery teams are really good for both these programs. Excuse me. And then, Riley Mills got lost during the Indiana game. They haven't found him yet because he's hurt. He's out for the season. So He's gone, and they've kind of had to patch things together too. But I think they're doing it more, Tim, on the fly than Ohio State is. Like you said, this offensive line has kind of come together. And Chip was complimentary of that. Ryan Day has been complimentary of that. And so we'll see what happens. What I took away from this was, Jim Knowles is feeling really, really good about his unit heading into this game. And, they had the two wheel routes that kind of got him there against Texas. Which
I had to ask about that because I didn't get to talk to him right after the game. But, you take those two plays away, my goodness.
Yeah, other than the two wheel routes, which you can't take away, those things happened. But, man, they really had a defensive masterclass against one of the best offensive minds in the country in Steve Sarkisian.
True.
And, I think Jim Knowles knows that. But they also have to now, he was asked, I can't remember by who, it might have been by you or somebody toward the end of the press conference, have you even thought about what it would be like to win a national championship because you came up the hard way? He started at Duke, then he went to Oklahoma State, two places that, quite frankly, you can't win a national championship at. And now he's at Ohio State. Has he thought about that at all? And he said, no, I'm just focused on a game plan to try to beat Notre Dame. And that kind of gives some insight into even the guys who haven't been here before are not thinking about what a national championship would do. They're just thinking about how do we beat Notre Dame?
Yep.
And the trophy comes once you do actually beat Notre Dame. And it's the same principle. How do we beat Oregon? The Rose Bowl trophy will come after that. How do we beat Texas? That big Cotton Bowl trophy came after that. You can't hoist a trophy unless you beat the team. And I think that's what the goal is here.
Yeah, and both coordinators alluded to this. They didn't say it out loud. I'm paraphrasing. But the interesting thing about this playoff format is it's more like you're playing in the regular season.
Yeah.
Because the games come fairly rapidly, not quite as fast. But Ohio State played on Friday night in Dallas. They're going to play not the next Monday, but the following Monday for the national championship. It's it's kind of like in the NFL where you play on Thursday night and you play the next Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that kind of schedule. And so I think that's a good thing for both teams, but I think especially for Ohio State to not be sitting there like when they played Miami in the Fiesta Bowl to win the national championship in 2002. I forgot the number of days,
51.
but it was like 51 days between the time you played your last game and the next one. And all kinds of things, all kinds of demons can creep in. Rust can creep in. We saw rust creep in for that 2006 team when it had all that time before it played Florida.
51 days.
Yeah, and then, of course, you lose your best player right off the bat there in that game after he scores a touchdown. I'm talking about Ted Ginn Jr. That's the beauty. If there's any beauty to this playoff format, it is you play and then you play again and you play again and you get ready. Next thing you know, your season's done. Did you get it done? And so I think Ohio State has gotten to this point. There might be a masterclass taught on this down the road about putting together a roster that could take you this far from the standpoint, because they've lost valuable players on that offensive line, and yet they've come out and they have one of the best offenses in the country still. But it's a masterclass almost on how to put together a roster that can endure a 16-game season.
Well, and Chip Kelly set out to endure a 16-game season with these running backs. Ryan Day did as well. That's why they went out and got Quinshon Judkins.
Of course.
And maybe something that we
I
haven't,
would have gotten him anyway, though.
maybe something we haven't thought about enough is how beneficial that has been. I was looking for the right word. Beneficial that has been on the defense as well. Because, hey, the offense isn't running as many plays. Well, guess what? The other side of the ball is not as well then. If the offense is going slow pace, this defense hasn't ran as many plays. This is a fast, fresh, physical defense. And I don't know if you could use the word fresh on Notre Dame's defense, but I think it's fast and physical.
Yes.
Both of these
They're
teams,
real.
Both of these teams just were in absolute wars in the semifinal. Notre Dame was in another war there in the quarterfinal. We'll see how much they've got left in the tank. Ohio State's been in one of these wars so far this postseason because they blitzed Tennessee, they blitzed Oregon. They didn't have to play 4-quarter games. Notre Dame has been in 2 straight 4-quarter games. Ohio State's been in 1. We'll see what kind of impact that has. But the regular season and everything, like you said, for Chip Kelly, the goal was to win a national championship. So we're going to treat this to where everyone should be fresh by January 20th.
As fresh as they can be.
Yes.
Let's leave it,
But
put it that
it's
way.
also helped Jim Knowles and this defense understand that they also need to be fresh for January 20th. And now I think this defense is rolling in here pretty fresh and ready to go.
Yeah. The interesting thing is when you look at Ohio State and the way it's used its running backs, think about it. Quinshon Judkins scored how many touchdowns on Friday?
2.
Yeah. Travion Henderson scored how many?
1.
And then, of course, they got the Jack Sawyer touchdown. That's about as well as you can use those 2 running backs.
Yeah.
Because finally, as Texas knows today, scoring the touchdown is what matters most.
It's not easy to do.
In anything. And the other thing that Ohio State has going for it right now, I think there is a confidence for both of these units. I'm talking about offensively and defensively, and even special teams for that matter. But offensively and defensively, they know they're playing on a high plane. The players played these games. They know they played the toughest road to this championship game in Tennessee, Oregon, and then Texas. So just feeling battle hardened, I think, really matters at this juncture. And Notre Dame's toughest game clearly was its game against Penn State, a team that Ohio State handled. Now, I'm not sure all these psychological things matter, but what gets me about Ohio State's path, and it was on great display on Friday night in Dallas, Caleb Downs, he kind of pointed this out. You got to play to play. Don't be thinking about a series. Don't be thinking about a half. Don't be thinking about a quarter. Play to play, because that's what got Ohio State through that game. The huge screen pass to Travion Henderson, 75 yards just before halftime.
Instead of going into the half.
When Texas thought it was back in the game, And then after, obviously down there on obviously down there on the goal line when Caleb Downs and then Lathan Ransom fire off on that second down play for a 7-yard loss when Texas runs that little quick toss to the left side, crack toss, whatever you want to call it. It was to the left side, and then setting up Jack Sawyer for one of the greatest plays in college football history, much less Ohio State football history.
Especially if they win the title.
But that's what it takes in these games is play to play to play. Sounds cliche. What can I say?
Here.
My name's Tim May. But the bottom line is that is what it takes. No matter what just happened, play the next play.
I think the best example of that, though, Tim, is the Caleb Downs interception on the next drive, where the game is already secured. Like, Texas is not going to come back in that game. They're desperately trying to throw the ball down the field.
That was a classic free safety play.
And instead of, you could probably have given that play up and made the tackle. And instead, Caleb is reading it just like it's the second quarter in a tie 0-0 ball game, and he makes the interception like that. Like, that's the play-to-play stuff where, like, this team is doing such a good job of being in the moment, even including the celebration after the game. They know that they need to celebrate these things.
Yeah.
But they also know that they cannot celebrate for too long. They're living in the moment because when they got back in this building on Saturday, it's like, okay, now it's back on Notre Dame. We just got to celebrate. Now it's back to this game. The last thing that I have, Tim, is Andrew Gillis at Cleveland.com asked a really good question to Jim Knowles. And it was a short answer, but I think it was pretty telling. Like, Marcus Freeman is a disciple of Jim Tressel. This building knows him so well. These people know him so well. Tressel, that is. And Freeman is a direct disciple of him, to the point where they play good defense, they run the ball, and they win on special teams. And Andrew asked Jim Knowles, like, hey, they ran their offense back on the field on a 4th down against Georgia and got a free first down off of that. Like, is that something that you're preparing for? And before he could even finish the question, Jim was like, yes, we know what they do. We know they're going to have something for special teams in the national championship game. This is the Notre Dame team that returned a kickoff for a touchdown and flipped the entire narrative or flipped the script on Georgia on its head and gave themselves a 2-score lead in the opening kick of the second half. This is a team that snuck its offense back on the field with a mass substitution on 4th and 2, got Georgia to jump off sides, and then they get a free first down in that game, in a critical part of that game. Like, Freeman has made this an execution clinic on special teams, and Ohio State's even preparing for that. They know that they have to be ridiculously good in an area that, quite frankly, like, even this year that they've shown improvement, they haven't been great this year on special teams. And Ryan Day talked about that prior to the Indiana game. Like, we have to make it great. It can't just be a plus. It's got to be great.
Then what happened?
Yeah, and Caleb Downs returned a punt for a touchdown. You've got to be great on special teams in this game. Chip Kelly knows that. Jim Knowles knows that. Ryan Day knows that, because Notre Dame is going to be exceptionally good in that area.
Yeah, I'm going back to Caleb Downs for a minute, though.
Okay.
Why this guy is so special. Like you just pointed out, he makes the play forces the play behind the line of scrimmage on the second down toss on the goal line stand. And then where is he to make the interception on basically the last play of the game?
Right where he needs to be.
Deep safety.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy can do it all. Lathan Ransom is playing on that same high level. That's what gives Ohio State an edge as you try to thwart what Notre Dame is going to try to do, which is they're going in some form or fashion try to run the ball down their throat, because that's what Notre Dame does. This Ohio State team has been pretty good when people try to run the ball down their throat.
Yeah.
And so there's your classic confrontation right there. Run the ball, run clock, and shorten the game. That's what Notre Dame has been really good at this season when it mattered. So I'm not sure what video you put on when you're scouting Notre Dame. Do you put on the disarray you saw against Northern Illinois just to show you can get to them? Or do you put on the hard-fought, never say die, play the fight song, win over Penn State? I think that's the one that you hang on, because they're not going to give up. It's for all the marbles. And like we were talking about earlier, the thing that troubles you as you prepare for this game is they are not a great passing team, yet they've hit some huge passes.
Yeah.
When you've maybe given up or maybe put too much emphasis on stopping the run, they've had a little dagger come out of their back pocket, which is a pass. So that's what Ohio State has to prepare for. They're playing for the national championship. This team is going to leave no stone unturned. Pardon the cliche, and neither is Ohio State.
Tim May, the 41-year vet, Spencer Holbrook, Mick Walker behind the camera will all be down one day closer to us going down to Atlanta on Friday for full coverage of the national championship game between Ohio State and Notre Dame. That will take place on Monday night at 7:30. It'll probably be more like 8.
By the way, Mick's already got his bowl game haircut. Have you gotten yours yet?
He certainly does. I don't have mine yet. We'll see if Tim gets his. He's got a lot up there to cut.
Yeah.
We're going to be in Atlanta on Friday for full coverage of the national championship game. That's, of course, on Monday night. For now, we're just here covering the Buckeyes. We got more interviews on Wednesday. We We've got full coverage on the YouTube channel. Go like the video below, subscribe to the YouTube channel, then head over to LettermenRow.com. You get full coverage of the Buckeyes and the Irish for just $1 the next 7 days. That's full coverage of the entire week of the national championship game for just $1. Don't miss out on that. Tim May, the 41-year vet. I'm Jeff Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back in the Woody on Wednesday, and we'll see you in Atlanta on Friday for the national championship game.